Shots on the field, defenders they shiver. Goalkeepers nervous, strikers they'll deliver. Crowd roars erupted, you can feel the quake. 80.
Hello there and welcome to the channel. Mo Salah signs a new contract with Liverpool. Now for me, what I want to discuss, what does that mean for the Premier League? Well, I think some defenders will be shaking in their boots. And what does it mean for the player? He gets to earn a lot of money and stays at Liverpool, where I think he's loved at the minute. But for me, I keep saying this about players. When you have the power in your hands to live on your own, to live on your own terms. You've won everything you could win at Liverpool. You've won the Champions League. You've won the Premier League title. Most likely win another Premier League title. You can live in glory. You can live, as a legend. You can live on your own terms. That's the best way to live a club. You come into the club, you help them to win, and then you win on your way out. I just have this feeling that Mo Salah, he's been on good form so far this season. Excellent form this season. And if and when they win the Premier League, it will be largely because of him. But going on to sign this new deal that I think terminates in 2027, that means he'll be about 35, 36, when that year comes around. What happens if he doesn't play so well, in let's say 2026, 2027 season? What happens? Or even going into this season. And I think Liverpool as well are taking a huge risk because this would have been the best time for you to cash in on Mo Salah because he's playing very well at a higher level, and you would have had lots of clubs interested in him. Maybe PSG, maybe a Saudi club that probably would have paid, north of £100 million for his signature. I think that would have been the best move for both parties, But now I think that tempting fate a bit too much because right now he's playing very well. He's 33. He's on excellent form, but you just know it that going into the coming seasons, he'll begin to, his form will begin to plummet. He wouldn't play the way he has been playing the past seasons. And people talking about loyalty. It's good to talk about loyalty. It's good to be loyal, but we know in football terms, you don't really have any loyalty. Okay, let's say going into 2026, 2027, let's say 2025, 2026 season, Mo Salah is no longer as pacey as he used to be. Doesn't dribble as he has been dribbling and scoring as he has been scoring. What happens? Very soon, he then sits on the bench. Then the fans will be talking about loyalty as well. The Liverpool fans, who have been talking about loyalty, who talk about loyalty a lot, will say, "Oh, get him out of my club. I don't want to see Mo Salah in this club anymore. He can't score. He can't hit the band door." So this would have been the best time, for both parties. Mo Salah on one hand, you go to an Al Ittihad, for instance, you go there, earn a lot of money, play there. Liverpool, you get a lot of money to invest in your club. Because if you had gotten £100+ million, which I think a Saudi club would have paid, or maybe an £80+ million, which I think a PSG would have paid, that's enough money for you to reinvest in the club and start to rebuild. Maybe you invest that in signing an Isak, and you begin to evolve your team in a different way. But now, two things: you have to stump up the heavy cash you pay, that you'll be paying Mo Salah weekly wages. Two, if his form drops, what are you gonna do? And you must play him. So even if you say somehow Liverpool, they have some loose £100 million, under their couch, and you sign an Isak. So who then becomes the number one? Who then becomes the main man? Definitely, Mo Salah wouldn't be playing second fiddle to anybody, and I don't think Isak will be playing second fiddle to anybody. And there's some talk about Victor Osimhen. I don't think that's really even serious. But let's just say, for purpose of argument, that you're going to sign Victor Osimhen. Victor Osimhen is not going to come to Liverpool or any club in that matter to play second fiddle to anybody. So I think Liverpool, they've missed a trick in this one. I think Mo Salah as well, he's missed a trick in this one. This was the right time for both parties to part ways. So Liverpool fans, I want to know what you think about it. So from my perspective, as a Chelsea fan, I don't really care either way. If Chelsea are going to win the league, if Chelsea are going to compete for the league, it will be irrespective of Mo Salah. If the Chelsea board get their acts together and get the likes of Victor Osimhen, for instance, and Enzo Maresca gets his head on right, or even if he gets the sack and maybe Cesc Fabregas is signing as a new head coach. So those are the things that could affect Chelsea winning or the league title, or at least competing for it next season. Going far in the Champions League if they're able to qualify, get into Champions League spots, this season. You have nothing to do with Mo Salah. Mo Salah will always do what Mo Salah would do. But for me, I just feel like this would have been that right time for player and club to harmoniously part ways. Victor Osimhen had the opportunity as well. At Napoli, they won the league title after 30 odd years, and it was time for him to leave. Although his even was even more obvious because he wasn't on the best of terms with the club. And then he renewed the contract. And when you renew your contract, what does that mean? The player earns even more money, and then becomes more difficult for the club to get off their books if and when they need to do that. Because right now it seems all chummy, it seems all nice, it's all lovely, lovey-dovey. People are saying, "Oh, that's loyalty for you to sign a new contract." Sometimes when that player is performing above his age, or is performing in a way you don't expect a player of his age to perform in, that's the time you let the player go, because you can get good value in terms of you can get good transfer fee for the player, and then you can reinvest in your club, as opposed to holding on to the player for too long and then Father Time taps the player on the shoulder, and you're in a very strange and difficult position, because that's one thing for sure. That's one thing for sure. Father Time is undefeated. Father Time is undefeated. I know Mo Salah scores. He looks absolutely ripped at 33 years old. But by 2027, he should be, getting to 35 at least, 35, 36 years old. So that's something that people don't consider. So I want to know what your thoughts and opinions are on Mo Salah signing a new deal, signing a new contract with Liverpool. Is that something that you would like to see as a Liverpool fan? If you're not a Liverpool fan, is this something that makes you a bit scared that he's still in the league and and that makes it difficult for you to compete? Or you don't, like me, you don't really care that much whether he stays in the league that long? And then there are questions that this brings up. What does this mean for investment in other areas on the pitch? And we all know that Liverpool owners, FSG, they're not like the Man City owners, that can absolutely splurge, that can absolutely just go on a tear and spend, 300-400 million pounds at a go, especially when you've just offered someone a new contract. So would they still be able to reinvest in the team? That's another question you have to ask. Would they still be able to go out there and splurge the cash and improve in areas where they need to improve it? So that's a question for everyone to think about. And then Van Dijk, I think he's signed, or he will be signing very soon, his own contract extension at Liverpool. So fair play to him, fair play to him. So Liverpool, apparently they've got two of their key players on lockdown. So that's good news from a Liverpool perspective. So for me, like I said, for Chelsea will just have to do, the business that they have to do. Yeah. So that's the question: Is it the smartest decision from both players? And then going on slightly to Nigeria-related news, you've got stories about Victor Odo, that side from Royal Antwerp, that Southampton side from Royal Antwerp, and the talks making the round, or rather, what we've been hearing is that Eric Chelle was looking at having him as part of the Unity Cup, team, but he's injured at the minute. So whether a twisted ankle or something like that, but with twisted ankle, maybe something he would be able to recover on time, because that friendly match does not come around until May, later part of May. So he could still be very fit to go on, to be part of that team. So what do you think about Victor Odo? For me, Victor Odo, a pacey, exciting player, 20 years old, and he's already scored for Southampton. So that's good to see that he's now gradually building himself into form, but save for this injury that just come unfortunately. So for me, What the question is, what do you think about Victor Udo being part of that Unity Cup squad? For me, like I said, that tournament, that tournament presents an opportunity, to cap certain vital players for the Nigerian Super Eagles. Not only going into the World Cup qualifying matches, but also preparing for the World Cup itself and for the future. So there are certain players that I think this opportunity should be used to get, in the team. Certain players should be brought into the team. And then speaking about that, Eric Chelle, has talked about the Unity Cup, more or less confirming it and saying it will present an opportunity, for the Super Eagles, for Nigeria to bring certain players into the fold. So I'll just share that up on my screen. Then I'll read out what he said, and then I'll give my opinion about it as well. So I'll just share my screen in a minute. So share it. And then so this is what he's had to say. This is what he had to say so far. So add in that one. So Eric Chelle views the Unity Cup as a timely opportunity to regroup and fine-tune his squad ahead of the resumption of the qualifiers in September. We are looking forward to taking part in the Unity Cup, as it will give us the chance to try out new players in different roles, helping us strengthen our squad before the matches in September and October. Chelle said this in a statement released by the Nigerian Football Federation. Vice Captain William Ekong also weighed in on the tournament's significance, highlighting the importance of the team bonding and preparation. So this is a great tournament for us to reunite and continue strategizing for the upcoming World Cup qualifying games. So the experienced defender remarked. So that's all well and good, acknowledging it as an opportunity, to give some new players a chance in the team. Now, that's fine, but the question is, which players would you be giving those opportunities to? For me, there's one name that comes up. Ethan Nwaneri, that's one player, 100%. Secondly, Uche Crisantos should be in that team for sure. And then if Nnamdi Collins can also be got, that's the one. And then the last one, who is definitely not the least, one of my most favorite Nigerian players that have not had the international cap yet, that's Ebenezer Akinsimiro. Because I think these players would add a unique, element to the Nigerian Super Eagles team. I think they'll add a unique element because in that midfield, you need quality, you need bodies. I'll mention his name again. Instead of Alhassan Yusuf, Uche Crisantos should be the player in there, 100%. Ebenezer Akinsimiro should be in that midfield. I've said it before. If you want to control the game, if you want to play with that lone six, you need a midfielder that can help you control games. And right now, we don't have that. Right now, the Nigerian Super Eagles don't have that brand of midfielder that can help the team control games. We had Olise in the past. We had Mikel Obi in the past. But right now, no. Wilfred Ndidi, for me, he disappointed me in the 2 games because I didn't see that experience. I didn't see the ability to control games. So that's one. And then in that 10 role is something that Nigeria have lacked for a long time. Now you have Ethan Nwaneri. I think the NFF should go all out to get him in because you have the striking position, you have Victor Osimhen, you have Victor Boniface, you have Tolu Arokodare, wing position, you have Ademola Lookman, you have so in that 10 role, that 10 position, that number 10 role, that is where you need the likes of an Ethan Nwaneri, and that's why I think the NFF should do their utmost to get his players and use, if it will be possible, and use this Unity Cup as an opportunity to give him his first cap. Same with Uche Crisantos. That's more straightforward. All you need to do, invite him in. That's all you need to do. Invite him, and he's there, ready to play. So that's one player you need to give opportunity to play. You need to use this Unity Cup to give him a cap, as well as Ebenezer Akinsimiro. Important player. This should be a tournament you use to give him a cap. Nnamdi Collins, if at all it's possible. Because I know one thing alongside Ethan Wanner, the thing with this nationality switches is that there's time duration you need to wait for. There's a process you need to undertake. So it may not be that straightforward that you invite them and immediately they come in. No. So, but like Benitez Akinsimiro, Uche Crisantos, for sure, those players, those ones you can get them in ASAP. You can get them in ASAP. And then they talk about Nathan Tella. Now, Nathan Tella for me has been a bit of a mystery to me because he was invited under Jose Pesero, didn't quite play. He played a couple of minutes in the first game, played even fewer minutes in the next game, and then that was it. Finidi George came on board, invited him. I think he was on that list as well. Invited him, and then he withdrew for family reasons or something like that. He withdrew. It wasn't part of that qualifying cycle. And then he was invited this time around under this Eric Chelle tenor. And then what happened? He withdrew due to some injury concerns. Now, I'm not saying he's trying to deceive anyone or anybody not being genuine, but sometimes it just makes you wonder what's going on. So now he's fully fit. He's been playing for his club. That is Bayer Leverkusen. Is he going to play? I want him to be invited, to be given the opportunity to be part of this Unity Cup team, because I think he has a lot that he can contribute going forward. So if maybe Nathan Tella comes in, maybe he takes up where you had your Ademola Lookman playing during the World Cup qualifying games, and then you have your Ademola Lookman playing in his actual natural position, which is that left side, and then hopefully you can get a proper number 10. I don't know who that's going to be. Itawanele for me is the out-and-out candidate that should come in. That should be in that 10 role for me. So I want to know what your thoughts and opinions are on that one. And then we'll switch lanes carefully to Manchester United. Onana, that's his name, dropped another clanger, to cause Manchester United to drop points and draw against Lyon. Well, congrats to them. They were able to hold Lyon to a 2-2 draw, but Onana, I think he should spend more time concentrating on being the best version of himself, on being the best goalkeeper he can be, as opposed to, engaging in quarrels or internet debates and arguments with Matic, former Manchester United midfielder. You should stop engaging in all that stuff, because I have no issues with it. Number one, to engage in debates, arguments, being a character on the internet, being a character on X, no problem. That's you do what you want to do. And in fact, it's none of my business. Really, I just want to talk about it because I'd like to see Manchester United suffer. I just like it. So for me, you should focus more on that, because if you do all this, once you begin to talk too much on X, you begin to be such a character outside the pitch, then each time you don't perform, those things you say will be brought back to you. Those things you say will come and tap you back on the shoulder. For me, I think one issue with this whole Onana business is part of the problem of modern day football, because people no longer look at the basics in player positions, not just goalkeepers. For goalkeepers, for instance, because Onana is a goalkeeper, and that's the position we're talking about right now. Rather than talking about how a goalkeeper makes saves, how he comes out to command his area, how he is able to command his box for set pieces and corners, how he can come out, claim the ball, to ease the pressure off his defenders. No, we don't get that nowadays. No. God forbid that you have that. What you have people talking about, analysts, pundits, or how good he is with his feet, how far he can pass the ball, how skillful he is on the ball, when that is not the primary function of the goalkeeper. And at some point, Chelsea were linked to Onana, and people were talking about, oh, he's so good on the ball, the risk he takes on the ball. For me, that should be a plus for a goalkeeper. It should be something additional. It could be something that takes the goalkeeper, up the top to the next level. You can say, okay, he's very good at doing this. When you're comparing two goalkeepers, for instance, this one goalkeeper, he's a good shot stopper. This goalkeeper is a good shot stopper, but this other one on the side, he is very good with his feet. So when you say that, then that now takes that goalkeeper to the next level. But that should not be the primary concern of players, of scouts or whatever. But now that's what it seems to be. That seems to be the primary concern. That seems to be the primary function. The primary requirement. How good a goalkeeper is with the ball at his feet. When for the most part, your responsibility of the goalkeeper is saving shots, preventing balls from getting past him into the net. It may seem very simplistic, but that is the primary function of the goalkeeper. And no matter how good a goalkeeper is with the ball at his feet, you really don't want a goalkeeper with the ball at his feet. Now, I don't know if that makes sense. I'll say it again. No matter how good a goalkeeper is with the ball at his feet, you don't really want him with the ball at his feet for that long, because that means you're under pressure. That means you're being pressed into your own half. That's why the goalkeeper is on the ball. Because if you're not under pressure, you'll be passing that ball around in your opponent's half. And that's the mad thing that's happened to football now. Because the Barcelona side that sort of brought this new tiki-taka business under Pep Guardiola, they would pass the ball in the opponent's own half. All 300, 400 passes completed would be in the opponent's own half. But now, the ball is being passed in the team's half. Like you saw with Southampton, that's one of the primary reasons they got relegated. You're seeing Manchester United suffer from it. You're seeing Chelsea suffer from it as well, with Robert Sanchez. Even Jorgensen is very good with the ball at his feet. But for me, that's not what I want to see. I don't want to see my goalkeeper, 60% of the time having to be playing the ball with his feet, because that means you're under pressure. So for me, Onana focus more on being a very good goalkeeper as opposed to all this internet talk. And then Ruben Amorim has come out to say, if one player makes a mistake, we all make a mistake. We know. But in his heart of hearts, is like, get this guy out of here. I want a new goalkeeper. So Manchester United fans are talking about the Torino goalkeeper. Let's see how that happens. For me, from a Chelsea perspective, Rob Sanchez, I think his time should be up, should be over, and it should be gone. It should be gone, because I don't see the need for him, because he doesn't do his primary function well enough. And even having the ball at his feet, for me, that's absolute chaos. So there's no point having him there. So he should go. And then speaking about Chelsea, now yesterday, Chelsea won 3-0 against Liga Warsaw, the Polish club in Poland. So that was a good result. And Tyreek George, a youngster that is eligible to play for Nigeria, scored his first goal for Chelsea. It's an academy product. He scored the first goal. And Noni Madueke, another person that is still just by this much, still eligible to play for Nigeria, but we know he's got a couple of caps for England. And I think by the next international break, he probably, by next international break or next international set of games for England, I think Tuchel will give him the remaining caps that are required to get him cap tied, and that will be it. So, but Harry George, he scored a good goal. It wasn't a goal where he dribbled 4 or 5 players or went past 4 or 5 players, but it was something where he showed great anticipation, because usually you see a shot taken, goalkeeper saves the shot, and then there's no parries the shot into a dangerous area, and you don't see anyone close by to attempt to score that goal, to attempt to even latch onto the rebound. So that was good anticipation from Tyreek George, and he finished off the chance. So brilliant. So for me, once again, this is something I want to say. Nigerian Football Federation, this is your time to be looking at players. Now, when I say look at players, people say, oh, do you want everybody to be in the Super Eagles? No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, this is the time you begin to integrate people into your larger football ecosystem. This is the point. You have to do that. So happy for the player, because he's been playing very, very well, Tyreek George. He's been creating lots of chances. He's had opportunities to score goals as well, which he hasn't taken. But this time around, he scored. He took his chance very well. So brilliant for him. And in addition, it wasn't one of those things where he wasn't even playing very well in the game and then suddenly got a chance and scored a goal. He was playing very well, taking on the defenders, going on the outside, going on the outside, going on, coming on the outside, going on the inside, making life really difficult for the fullback, his fullback that he was going up against for the Liga Warsaw fullback that he was going up against. So for me, very, very good in that regard. And then speaking about youngsters that are sort of eligible to play for Nigeria, there was one on the pitch for Liga Warsaw, but I think he's more or less setting right now to play for Poland. So because I think he's played a couple of games for them already. That's Maxi Oyedele. He's a deep line playmaker or a six. He played for Liga Warsaw. I think he was pretty decent, given that he was playing against a very poor side when you in comparison to Chelsea. So it's not a side you expect, to get anything against Chelsea, but they still give problems. There was a very delightful pass he gave to the Liga Warsaw forward, tried to call it, but called it way wide. So, but overall, I think he had a good game, but sadly, he is lost to Nigeria. And I want to point out that he is that sort of player that I personally am looking for, that Nigeria, I think, is missing. And that's why I'm talking about Ebenezer Akinsimiro, those type of central midfielders that can just hold the ball and control the pace of the game. So I think Max Oyedele, I think that is gone. I don't think Nigeria will be able to get him because he's gotten a couple of caps for Poland, and I think he will even get more caps for the Polish senior national team. So that's gone. That's gone. So Terry George, let's see how it happens if the NFF are able to look at him. Because if they've had their house in order, I think this Unity Cup would have been that opportunity. Because for me, I feel your Victor Siemens, we know, your Victor Boniface, we know your Ola, we know all these players. So that would have been an opportunity to give some fresh faces the opportunity to be on the pitch. The ones who have just mono nationality like Uche Crisantos, Ebenezer Akinsimiro, and dual nationals like Ethan Waneri, Ty George could have been given opportunities to get their first cap for the Nigerian Super Eagles in that Unity Cup game. But what I've been saying, just like what I said previously, is that nationality switches have some time, very time conscious. You have to make the application, the player have to make the application to switch nationalities, and then FIFA would have to approve it, like it's within time and within their laws and regulations. And then before it gets to the team that is switching to, and then the English side will also have to acknowledge, and all those things that you have to do. So even if they go now, you may not be able to make it into the Unity Cup team. But nonetheless, if they're able to get these players to commit to the team, then for sure that'll be a good one. So speaking on players who could be, eligible to play for the Nigerian Super Eagles, who could be eligible to play for the Nigerian Super Eagles, there's one, a Chelsea player, in fact, that's currently, on loan at Borussia Dortmund, and since Borussia Dortmund, they're looking to keep the player. But in usual Borussia Dortmund fashion, they're not looking to sign the player. Like, they're not looking to sign the player, on a permanent deal. They're not looking to sign the player on a permanent deal. What they're looking to do is to keep the player on loan. So I'll just share my screen and put this up here, and then we'll have a discussion about it. But I just think Borussia Dortmund sometimes just stop being miserly. If you want to sign a player, pay what is needed, get a player signed onto your team, and happy days for you and your fans. So I'll just put this up here. So it says Chelsea-owned midfielder Kane Chukwuemeka joined Borussia Dortmund in the January transfer window in search of adequate game time. German Bundesliga giants have a purchase option, but have not activated it as they have a different plan. Born in Austria, Chukwuemeka is one of the dual national players on the radar of Nigerian manager Eric Chelle. However, his participation in the London tournament appears unlikely as he's provisionally cap tied to England. Who says that? I don't think that's right. I don't think that's provisionally cap tied. There's no way it's provisionally cap tied. don't know what they're trying to mean by that. So maybe maybe what maybe what they mean by that is he's played for the under he's played for age grade teams, and I don't see how that is being cap tied. That's not provisionally being cap tied. You still have to do your nationality switch and all that, but I don't see that as him being cap tied. So we'll continue with the article. So on there, so this is what they have to say again. Borussia Dortmund will have to pay 30 million euros to sign Chukwuemeka on a permanent deal, according to Dortmund-based daily newspaper. Paying the sum is out of the question for several reasons. Borussia Dortmund would very much like to have Chukwuemeka in the squad next season, but are seeking another loan deal for the Aston Villa Academy graduate, provided they qualify for next season's European competition. After 28 matches in the German top flight, Dortmund sit 8th standings with 41 points. So, just bring this down and I'll stop sharing this. So, first off, is he needed in Nigeria? Is he needed in Nigerian Super Eagles? My answer would be yes. Same reason why I'm saying Ethan Nwaneri needs to be got on the books is that position, that number 10 role behind the striker, behind two strikers, that will be the link between the defensive midfield and the attack. I think that's someone that can play in that 10 role. And like I keep saying, Nigeria, we need that number 10. We need that number 10 player behind your attacking line, whether you're playing with a lone striker, two strikers, foreman, whatever. You need that number 10 behind your strike force, behind your striking trio or partnership. You need that number 10 player behind them to create, to score from distance, to play those passes between the lines. You need that sort of player. So for me, I think he is needed 100% alongside the likes of Leslie Ugochukwu to play in that number 6 or deep line playmaker role. So for Ugochukwu, for instance, he and Ebenezer Akinsimiro means you will have two players that are capable of coordinating the midfield. So I think those two, Ebenezer Akinsimiro and Leslie Ugochukwu, would be perfect for that deep line playmaker role, for that number 6 role that will help control the flow of play. So that's that. And then for that number 10 role, Kanu Chukwuemeka, I think would fit in perfectly in that role. In my opinion, I think he is really, really needed. I know Ethan Nwaneri is someone I say he's the number 1. Ethan Nwaneri, and then Kanu Chukwuemeka for me is number 1B. I think two of them, you have those two sort of 10s, then you can alternate them off the bench. You have a deep squad and you have a cover for that number 10 role. And I'm talking about Dortmund. Dortmund and a lot of Italian teams, I don't know why they like to do this. It's either you want to sign a player, it's either you like a player, the player has come on loan to your club, he's played very well. It's either you like the player and you want to keep him, you want to trigger the buy option, or certain circumstances have been triggered and now you have to meet the buy obligation. That's fine. But going all around to say, oh, we don't think we want to sign him, but we like him very much, we want to find a way to get him back on loan to the club again, I don't quite understand why they want to do that. I guess there are penny pinchers trying to save as much money they can save. And that's one thing about German clubs that I keep saying. That's why players, when they go to Germany, they work out better than when they stay in England. Why is that? Not because the players don't like playing in England. The reason is German clubs like your Dortmund, like your RB Leipzig, they don't have as much money as your English clubs. So when they get a player in, when they have a player on their books, what they do is they do their utmost, they do their very, very best, to get the maximum out of that player, because they know they've spent a lot of money on that player. Unlike in the English Premier League, where you sign a player for 100 million, for instance, in this summer of 2025, and then by January of 2026, you're already set to get a player sold or loaned, or contract terminated. So there's that. But in terms of Nigeria needing Kanu Chukwuemeka, 100%, Nigeria needs Kanu Chukwuemeka 100% in that number 10 role. Because for me, I've said it before, when you talk about wing backs, you talk about or full wing backs or full backs, talk about central defenders, you talk about your wingers, you talk about your strikers. I've always produced top quality players in those positions. Wingers, fullbacks, strikers, central defenders, pure out and out, dogged central defensive midfielders. But when it comes to that 10 role, not so much. When it comes to that deep line playmaker, that 6 role that can help coordinate the flow of play, not that much. So for me, many times you see players in that position where as a country, Nigeria doesn't really create or produce as much players with that ability. You have to do your utmost to get them in. You have to do your utmost to get them to be, part of the squad. You have to get them to be part of the national team. Now, I'll just go back to some of the things I just discussed earlier in the video, which is, first of all, Mo Salah has signed a new contract with Liverpool. What's your take about that? What's your opinion on it? Is it the smartest decision for him as a player to have made? Is it the smartest decision as well for Liverpool to have made? Because my position is this. As a player, there's only one time you have control of your destiny. Only once. And that is before you sign a new contract. When your contract is expiring, 6 months to go, a year to go, that's when you have the power, all the power in the world about your own future, about your own destiny. The moment you take your pen, you sign a contract extension, the control over your future is done. So any gentleman agreement, we have a gentleman agreement. If a club comes to pay 200 million for me, they offer this much, I will go. Gentleman agreement is out the window. Clubs always use that to sort of blackmail players. We have a gentleman agreement. You've been a very good servant for the club. You play so well for the club. Let's have a gentleman agreement. If a club, we assure you, Mo Salah, if a club comes to pay, 60, 70 million pounds for you, we will definitely agree, let you go. If that's not in black and white, then that's just pointless. So I felt like Mo Salah would have taken this opportunity to move to a new club, maybe a PSG, maybe go to Saudi, go to a new club and have impact there. And of course, earn more money. Some people say, money is not important in football. Loyalty. Come on, man. We are fans. We support this club, support our various clubs regardless. I support Chelsea regardless. You may support Manchester United regardless. Some other people may support Liverpool regardless. But the players, you have to think about your money as well. And then on the part of Liverpool, you're signing this a 3-year-old player until 2027 because you think he's going to still be as good as he is right now in 2027. What if he drops off? That's what people don't understand about professional sport. You could see a player playing so well this season that is 34 years old, for instance, and you think, wow, he's so well, he takes care of himself so well, his regimen is wonderful, his food, his diet is just exquisite, he does the right thing. And then suddenly, by the time he hits 35, his form goes, and now you're stuck with a player past his best that you're having to pay a lot of money as weekly wages. And now you can't get off your books because, for one, you want to demand a lot of money from the club that are coming from prospective buying clubs, for one. And then on the other side of things, the club will also be looking at the wages. Can we meet these wages? And they'll also be looking at the player. His form is dropping. He's not quite the same person. If he was 22, 23, 24, 25, then we can say, okay, he revived. His form can be revived. But now he's 34, going to 35. Are you quite sure that he will revive his form? And people say Saudi will always be there. What we don't understand about the Saudi Pro League is departing from signing players who are ancient, who are getting ancient, for lack of a better word. And then, except you're saying Mo Salah, maybe he will go to MLS. But one thing you have to know is this: Major League Soccer clubs don't spend as much on transfers as your Saudi Pro League clubs. Not even as much on transfers as some European clubs. Definitely, I don't think they are able to match transfer outlay of a PSG, for instance, of a Madrid, for instance. I don't think they can even match that outlay. So for me, I think the player and the club have been overtaken by emotions right now, especially Mo Salah. I think he's been overtaken by emotions. People say, "Why do you want to leave us now? Legends at the club. Why do you want to go? Stay?" Blah, blah, blah. I think he's been overtaken by emotions and he has been emotionally blackmailed. And now he's going to be at the club. Fair dues. I don't wish Liverpool well. So whatever happens to him, happens to him. Hope he's healthy. That's all I can say. Hope he's healthy going in. So that, but I don't think, for me, from my own perspective, that it is or it was the best decision to take. And then talking about Victor Odo, a Nigerian player that used to play for Royal Antwerp. Royal Antwerp has had a history of giving Nigerian players opportunity coming into Europe to play very well. Like your George Lenny Kenna that has gone out, that's at Monaco now, doing very well. He was at Royal Antwerp for starters. And then you have Victor Odo right now. He's at Southampton. He's playing for on the 21 side or something. He's scored, I think, a couple of goals for them. And the rumor was that Eric Chelle was looking to have him as part of the Unity Cup squad. So for me, I want to know, what do you think about Victor Odo? For me, I think that would be nice. That would have been nice, to see him as part of that squad. Let him get game time and see what he can offer. But unfortunately, he's had a bit of he's had an ankle injury. Just hopefully, fingers crossed, that it's not too serious, not too bad, that it keeps him out for a long time. So hopefully he would still have the opportunity to play for the Super Eagles under Eric Chelle in that Unity Cup game. And now talking about one player that I wouldn't say is polarizing, but some people just like to be heavily critical about him, want to brand him, unfairly. But I think he is an absolute world-class player, and the Nigerian Super Eagles are absolutely lucky that he is Nigerian, because he's top, absolutely top level player. In my opinion, absolute top level player. There have been rumors about him coming to Chelsea. There have been rumors about him, getting signed by Manchester United. And yet again, there's more to talk about him. Essentially talking about his wages maybe too much for Manchester United. Thinking about that, if he will even go to Manchester United, that are currently languishing in the bottom half of the Premier League. So I'll just share my screen in a bit and we'll have a discussion about this player. And he is none other than Victor James Osimhen. So let's have a discussion about Victor Osimhen. So see the heading here, say if true, if Osimhen's wage demands may be expensive for Manchester United. The Manchester United insider raised concerns over the potential cost of a transfer for Victor Osimhen to the Red Devils. However, Victor Osimhen's wage demands are not exactly going to be attractive to the Reds either in their current financial state. For me, I think so much has been made, of Victor Osimhen's salary. I think it's just been too much, in my opinion. People have just made so much of Victor Osimhen's wage. Like, in fact, I think what we'll do is we're going to Google it and we'll have a look at it. Because for other top class players, for other world class players, their wages are not usually made an issue of. Because Chelsea were supposed to sign Victor Osimhen last season or last summer, and everything. No, his wages are too much. They're too high. The buyout clause is too much. But when you talk about the Erling Haaland, no one really talks about his wages. You talk about Harry Kane, no one really talks about his wages. And for me, I would say you talk about maybe Harry Kane, maybe Erling Haaland, and then you have to talk about Victor Osimhen. And for me, I think people may say this is crazy, but it's true. I think Victor Osimhen has more to his game than Harry Kane. He does. He's faster. He's stronger. He has more of a powerful shot. Harry Kane knows how to play the ball very well, but Victor Osimhen has more of a powerful shot. He is younger than Harry Kane. But if a club wants to sign Harry Kane right now, that is over 30 right now, he definitely his wage is going to definitely increase. So I don't know what is being made, why so much is being made of Victor Osimhen's wages, why so much is being made of Victor Osimhen's salary. I don't get it. Is this some PR move? Because I don't want to say any R word business here, but it just seems odd to me. Last year it was his buyout clause, it's too expensive for what the player is. So someone that's won a league title with Napoli, won the Italian Cup with Napoli, second highest goal scorer for Nigeria, gone to a continental final for his national team, leads his national team, scoring tons of goals at Galatasaray, tons and tons of over 30 plus goals and assists this season for Galatasaray. Yet people want to make so much about his wages. That for me is absolutely crazy. It's just crazy. Some people now are trying to compare Victor Osimhen with Liam Delap. I've told people that comparing Victor Osimhen to Liam Delap is unfair to Liam Delap because Liam Delap is still forming his career. He's still building himself. He's still very, very young. He's still trying to, get into his bag as a striker. He's nowhere near the finished product. But Victor Osimhen, he is the finished product. He is the finished product. He is the finished product. So let's look at Victor Osimhen's salary right now. It's 10 million euros. Victor Osimhen's salary, 10 million euros. Now, for you and me, that's absolutely crazy money. For you and me, that's crazy, crazy, crazy money. Hell, for me, £1,000 a week is crazy money for me. So 10 million euros. Okay, that's for Victor Osimhen. Now let's have a look, and then are we having the Mauro Kvaratskhelia right now, 16.36 million euros. No one makes an issue about it. Mo Salah, 18.2 million British pounds. No one makes an issue about it. So why is it that people like to make a lot about Victor Osimhen's salary or anything that has to do with finances around Victor Osimhen deal? We have to make a distinction. For you and I, everyday people, 10 million euros, 1 million euros is mad, crazy money. But when you look at what the contemporaries of a Victor Osimhen earns, then that shouldn't be an issue. That shouldn't be an issue. But somehow, some way, people always find a way to make it an issue. So look at how much Erling Haaland earns. Erling Haaland earns £27.3 million a year. 27.3 million pounds a year. But no one makes an issue about it. Everyone just focuses on his ability, what he does on the pitch, how he helps his team win. And rightfully so. And that's my point. Rightfully so. But when it comes to Victor Osimhen, for whatever reason, people always go off, but his wages are too much. His wages are too high. How can any club afford it? That's just mad talk to me. Even last season, people were going on about the buyout clause. The buyout clause was about £100 million. Oh, how dare you have £100 million buyout clause? That is crazy. Why do you do that? But we've seen players go to Barcelona right now. You see players with 700 million euros buyout clause. No one blames the player for having that buyout clause. But for Victor Osimhen, for some reason, for some strange reason, that was a problem. That's meant to be an issue. And even when I said, how about the club negotiates around that buyout clause? Because what people fail to understand or choose to ignore sometimes is you don't have to pay that 100 million buyout clause. Sometimes you can make an offer that is close enough, to that buyout clause to make the club interested. And this season, or right now, his release clause or buyout clause has been drastically reduced because Napoli wants to sell him, want to let him go. And then the other thing people will talk about is, if he was such a great player, why does Napoli want to sell him? Really? Is that something people really ask in 2025? Harry Kane, top striker, great striker. Why did he leave Spurs? Why did he stay on at Spurs? You know, sometimes things happen between club and player, and you just have to leave. People want to talk about character issues. What character issues are you talking about? When you see a player step on the pitch, that is what should be your concern as a player, as a fan. What does this player do when he wears the jersey of my club? When he steps on the pitch representing my club, what does he do? Does he fight for his teammates? Does he score goals? Or does he make tackles? Does he save shots? What does he do when he steps onto the pitch? But for some reason, people always look for something to say about Victor Osimhen. Oh, some character issues. And when you ask these people, half of them don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. I said, what character issues? Oh, I'm not quite sure. How do you make such comments when you're not quite sure of what you're talking about? Ronaldinho used to go out, party, club, and then he'll come back and he'll still play. Because what was important was what you did on the pitch as a player. And that's what still should be important right now, what you do on the pitch. Number one, as long as you're not committing any crime, doing anything illegal, number one. And secondly, anything you do after the pitch should not bother anybody, shouldn't be the problem of anybody. So far as you keep everything legal that you do it, that's fine. And then when you come on the pitch, you deliver. Once you're on the pitch, you step on the pitch for your club or your country, you deliver. You score goals, you create chances, you make tackles, you win possession back for your team. You do your function as a player on the pitch at a high level. And Victor Osimhen does that at a high level. So for me, my advice to Manchester United is this. Please sign Liam Delap. Please. Liam Delap is the striker for you, Manchester United. He will really help you. That's the level of striker you should be going for. Liam Delap, that's the striker Manchester United you should be going for. Liverpool, sign Isak, no problem. Arsenal, sign Gyökeres, no problem. And now the next thing people have been saying is, oh, he plays in the Turkish league. He plays in the Turkish league, but they forget. Adagula was playing in the Turkish league, played for Fenerbahce, and was signed straight from Fenerbahce to Real Madrid. No one made an issue about Turkish league. No one said, oh, but he plays in Turkish league. He was signed straight from Fenerbahce, straight to Real Madrid. No issues. No one brought up the issue of the Turkish league. Kalangulu, signed from the Turkish league. No one made an issue about it. That signed from the Turkish league all those years ago. Or for some reason, Victor Osimhen, people want to point to the fact he plays in Turkish league. Or the goals he scores in Turkish league. He is a top-level, world-class striker. He's doing it for his club. He's doing it for his country. So I don't get all this if, buts, and maybe, oh, salary is too high. I'm tired of all this. I'm really tired. I don't want to brand this as anything, but it's just silly talk to me. Of course, I get it. Earnings of footballers, crazy money, because there's crazy money in football. There's crazy money in professional sport. The sponsorship deals that clubs get, who talks about it? The FIFA World Club Cup, the winner, I think, is going to get close to 100 million. Close to 100 million. No one bothers about it. And that's fine. There's so much money in football. So why is it that when it comes to Victor Osimhen, then it now becomes some sort of issue? I don't quite get it. I don't get it. Because when it comes to certain players, people start talking about, they want to look at character issues. You have, we had the Foden incidents. How many years ago? Foden bought a house for a family, no issues. Justin Adebayo bought a house for a family. Oh, that was a problem. Raheem Sterling did the same thing. Oh, that was a problem. Why do people like to character assassinate certain players? Why? Why do they like to go, try to attack the characters of players? Why? For me, I don't get it. If you don't want to sign a player, don't sign a player. But don't try to confuse your fans with lazy PR. This player is not good. His wages are too high. That's why we didn't sign him. But you have a lot of players on your books, They're not doing anything. And for me, as a Chelsea fan, from a Chelsea perspective, this is the issue. You may say, "Oh, the salary of Victor Osimhen is too high. His weekly wages are too high. How can we sign a player like that?" And then you sign 10 players. Let's say Victor Osimhen earns 200 about £1,000 a week, and let's say you sign 10 players down or 5 players down on £100,000 a week. 5 players, £100,000 a week. And then out of the 5 players, only one plays well, is able to contribute. Because that's what we're saying. Out of all the 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds that Chelsea have signed, how many are actually contributing now on the pitch for Chelsea? How many of them? How many of them? How many of them are actually on the pitch right now producing for the team? You can say Cole Palmer. Okay, he's even struggling, but yes, leave him. Cole Palmer. All right, who else is really actually performing at that level? So sometimes you have to be money smart and not be penny wise, pound foolish. Oh, let's sign 10 players with the money we would use to sign 2 players. But what if those 10 players don't perform? So how does that benefit anybody? How does that benefit you as a club? And now for Chelsea, Enzo Maresca has dropped another bomb again, has dropped another absolute bombazo in his interview. It seems like he just keeps dropping some things to make fans upset. For me, what I want to say is this. Hopefully, it's one of his pulling the Jose Mourinho, which is he's saying one thing to the media, he's saying something one thing to the public, and we all gobble it up, we all react to it. We all like, oh, why did he say this? And then within closed doors, speaking to the board members or speaking to the team in their team meetings, is actually telling them what we expect him to be telling them. Because right now he says, "Oh, for a striker, or if you can have a copy of Nicholas Jackson, in other words, Nicholas Jackson is his ideal striker." Now, and you have a lot of people gobbling it up to say, "Oh, people don't know what Nicholas Jackson does for this team. He does a lot for this team." The question I want to ask: if you get me another pacey forward, would that pacey forward, even if he's 19 years old, even if he's 20 years old, even if he's 21 years old, another pacey forward, would that pacey forward not be able to do or contribute what Jackson is contributing to the team? Because people keep saying he stretches the play. Fine, he does. Kudos to him. He stretches the play. Good. But the main function of a striker is one thing: scoring goals. Now, you can have other things you contribute, and I've said it before. I'll keep it 100. If you have a striker that usually scores goals, but sometimes when the goals are not coming, he contributes in other ways. Fine, understandable. But when you have a striker that struggles always to score goals, and you only want to focus on the other aspects of the game, other things he contributes, that's an issue. And then you don't even think about replacing him when you have the better option. Have you seen Victor Gyökeres play? Have you seen Victor Osimhen play? Victor Osimhen will score tons of goals for you. He will work hard on the pitch. He will press. He will instigate the press. He will lead his teammates. He doesn't need the captain's armband to lead his team. He will lead his teammates. He will run himself into the ground week in, week out. Every match day, he will do that. He will run himself into the ground. And then you say, "Oh no, we want what's his face, Nicholas Jackson instead." I don't get it. For me, I feel for the progression of Nicholas Jackson's career, I think Nicholas Jackson should be taken off that striking position completely. He should go and play that left wing. I think he has everything to be a successful left winger. He's got the pace, he's got the strength, he's got the skill on the ball. He's got it. But he's not lethal in front of goal. He's not clinical in front of goal. He doesn't have box awareness. We've seen this time and time and time again. You see crosses coming, and Jackson isn't even making an effort to get on the end of it. He's somewhere either at the edge of the 18-yard box, or he's way past the second post that the cross just goes by and goes out of touch. So take that burden off him that you must be the guy to score the goals. Take that off him. Give it to Victor Osimhen, for instance. Jackson, you play that left wing. You've got the pace. No one knows what's happening with Mikhail Modric. No one knows what's happening with him. B sample, no one knows when that would even come back. No one knows what's happening to him. So for me, having Little Jackson at left wing would do him a ton of good and will really help the team a lot. So his work rate can be more evident there. His pace can be more evident there. He can come up with assists from there. But you need to get someone who is more of a finisher, who is more clinical. There. You need to get someone who is more clinical, who is more lethal, and that has the ability to pin down defenders. So for me, I think Victor Osimhen should be the one to sign, but then again, who will say Liam Delap? I look at it and say, we are going to be talking about the same thing again next season if Liam Delap is signed. We're going to be giving the same old excuses. Oh, he's only 22. He's still a young player. He has a long way to go. We need to give him time, 2 to 3 more years to progress. 2 to 3 more years before we can compete. You need to be committed to your young striker. Making all those same excuses you've been making for the past 2+ years. You want to keep making, because if you sign the lap, that means you have to give him another 2 to 3 years to actually come good. That's true. You have to give him 2-3 years to come good. Because strikers, you see the analysts will come in. Oh, strikers come into their prime at 25, 26, 27. At 22, you're not expecting the striker to be all that. And people come up with this where they say, Liam Delap scored 12 goals for Ipswich Town. Now that's good. That's good evidence. Factual is there. In 31, 32 games played so far, he scored 12 goals. That's good return for a striker playing for a team that in the bottom half of that, in the bottom 3, bottom 4 in the Premier League. That's a good return. But the other thing that people just quietly ignore, intentionally don't talk about, is when you're playing for Ipswich Town, you're playing differently. You have more room, because most teams that come up against you feel we can dominate play, we will play high up, we will squeeze them up in their own half, we maintain possession, and then what happens if Ipswich Town on the break, they play a long ball, you find Delap along with one defender, and he can batter the defender with pace, with power, and get his goal. But if you're playing for Chelsea, if you're playing for Liverpool, if you're playing for Manchester United, playing for Arsenal, you will be marked differently. You will be blocked differently. You will be played differently. The space you think you have playing for Ipswich Town, you wouldn't have it playing for Chelsea. People say, oh, but you have playing with better players so you can come good. Yes, that's true. That's indeed possible. But it is even more possible for you to have life even more difficult. And people want to say, oh, but who talked about Palmer? Yeah, Palmer has come in and he's come good. Have you ever heard of outliers, exceptions to the rule? One thing I want going into next season is not having to make excuses. It's kind of like some Chelsea fans and some other football fans, they like this excuse of project. We have a 10-year project. We have a 20-year-old striker. So we need 5 years for him to come good and start scoring goals. And they like to do all those sort of things, and then make up all those excuses. At the end of the day, that doesn't help the team win anything. Because don't forget, Newcastle, with the money they have, they're heading towards Champions League spots. Aston Villa, they're going to be in and around Champions League, the battle for Champions League next season, and even this season as well. So they're in and around that spot. So these are the people you're fighting with, and unfortunately, that's the people you have to fight with. And then Man City will always reinforce, for sure, always. Liverpool, let's see, have money because they've signed Mo Salah to this new contract extension. So let's see, have the cash to go out and splurge. But if you want to compete against Liverpool come next season, you have to get yourself a striker that can score and take chances. So no more excuses of, we create lots of chances, XG is 10.5. No, expected. If I have a business, and someone keeps telling me, you're expected, I have a manager for the business, he keeps calling to report to me, Ugo, the expected income this year, was £1 million, but we got £100,000 this year. Huh? What are you talking about? Is that meant to be good news? The next year, the expected, profit for this year, it's it's £10 million, but we ended up, with a loss of £500,000. What does that do for me as a business owner? Do you think that would make me look at the manager and say, yeah, that's good, you're doing really well. We expected to get this much, but somehow you've made us lose. Does that make any sense to anybody? For me, it doesn't make any sense. It does not make a lick of sense to me. So the same thing applies to players. We've come into this era of, statistics, data, 100 xg, expected goals. Yeah, how about you score some goals? Stop expecting the goals and score some. Put some in the back of the net. How about that? So some people, not just Chelsea fans, a lot of other fans have fallen in love with this idea of, a project, a 10-year project, a 5-year, 12-year project, 20-year project, 5-year project. Now, even if you go into that realm of projects, right? Let's say you have a normal project. You want to develop a software, right? And you now get your requirements from your stakeholders, your user groups, and all that. And let's say you while you're doing that, get eliciting all those requirements, you see your business analyst is taking 2 years just to elicit those requirements. Meanwhile, you say your project is a 5-year project. How would you feel? Wouldn't you think there's something wrong? Same thing. In football, you have this long-term project. How is the project progressing? Are there signs of progress in the project? Are there signs of progress in the project? For me, the only thing that makes me a bit wary of Victor Osimhen joining Chelsea is nothing to do with his goal scoring. It's nothing to do with his fights. It's nothing to do with his aggressions, but in a positive way. Nothing to do with how he supports his teammates. Nothing to do with his leadership on and off the pitch. It has everything to do with Enzo Maresca, Chelsea's head coach. That is my issue. And because he and alongside a lot of young coaches have this thing in their brains that they call their philosophy, the way I want to play football. This is the way we want to play football. And every player should be able to play in every part on the pitch. It's a left back should be able to play as a 6. A striker should be able to play as a winger. I don't want any of those that madness, because I don't want Victor Osimhen to come into Chelsea and the Enzo Maresca wakes up and say, "Oh wow, I got an idea. I've always seen him as an 8." Because you have fans that will gobble it up. Oh yeah, Victor Osimhen 8. Yes. Because you're having fans gobbling up the idea that Rich James is a 6. That he 6. Oh, he says no, he's not. He's one of the best right backs in the world, not just in the Premier League. But you're saying he's a 6. How? And you have fans who are supporting you say, yeah, he's a 6. Oh, Rich James, yes, idea. No, he's not. He's not. Malo Gusto playing as an 8. Why? What do you gain? What do you gain? Where's the fluidity? What do you gain from that? So a lot of people watch the game versus Liga Warsaw and say, oh yeah, can't you see he's working? What he wants to do, you can see that he's working. What? You're playing up against a side that had players missing for one, and you're playing against a side that are way down the pecking order in terms of teams you should be coming up against. If that was a Premier League game, probably would have ended 0-0, a 0-0 draw, or maybe they would have won 1-0. Because once that midfield is choked, there seems to be no reaction from the bench, from the players. And for me, I think some players are scared to even play. The likes of Malo Gusto is scared out of his mind. He's completely scared out of his mind. And a lot of people are going on about, we want Milos Kekes, sign Kekes. But have you asked yourself, what is Kekes' superpower? What is it that Kekes does very well? What is that thing that stands him out, that has made you notice him? His ability to go up and down, defend and attack, create width for the team. That is the thing. That's what is the number one thing that's special about him. So he comes to play under Enzo Maresca, and then he'll find himself stuck. He'll find himself stuck in the midfield, and then people will begin to say, "He's not that good. Oh, we thought he was good. Look at how he's doing. He's so bad." No. How would you say that? And now, but people will ignore what he is good at and say, "Oh, bring him, sign him up. And then you sign him up, your Enzo Maresca plays him out of position, he struggles, and his confidence gets dashed. Same thing with Christopher Nkunku. Christopher Nkunku, Chelsea best player in the preseason. Best player. He was playing in his favored position. First game of the proper season, or the regular season, he gets to play as a left winger. And people think, yeah, left winger. Sometimes he'll come in 2 minutes to go. Sometimes he'll come in 5 minutes to go. Tell me, what would that do for your confidence if you were in his shoes as a player? What would that do to your confidence? Play that opposition, struggle all day. His confidence is gone, washed up. So for me, I'm saying Nkunku should leave, not because he doesn't have the talent, but it seems as long as he stays under Maresca, he will never play in his favored position for one, and his confidence is shot to pieces. So there's no way he should go somewhere else and get a new start, blank slate. Then I think he can come good. But to still play for Chelsea under Maresca, no. For me, I'm not saying sack Maresca even. I'm not even saying that. For me, I'm saying, how about you become adaptable as a coach? Because at the end of the day, the works of his hand, his tactical acumen, what he shows on the pitch, will lead the owner to say, you're going to get sacked. That's it. Because the way this team is being set up is poor. And what I tell people is this: when they say, "Oh, the recruitment was poor," you sign youngsters. I say that as well. You can't be signing all these young players, but the way to put it to the board completely is you play a right back in his position, you play centre backs in their position, wingers in their position, with their full backs providing support for them. Allowing them to go inside. Then if they struggle playing in their favored position, then you can raise your hands up and say, "You see, you bought absolute doo-doo for me. I'm playing them in the right position, but they're unable to deliver." Then we as fans should be able to say, "Oh yeah, I see this. I see, yeah, they're playing them in the rightful position, but they're struggling because they are no good." People talk about PSG. "Oh, look at how PSG play. Look how their wingers are taking on players." Do you see what Hakimi does for PSG? Do you see what he did for PSG against Aston Villa? Did you see what Nuno Mendes did for PSG? How he made those runs. Sometimes he would overlap, sometimes he would underlap to provide support for the wingers. At Chelsea, where do you see that? Non-existent. Absolutely non-existent. And then you want to say, "Oh, Gusto is so bad, sell him." So when you sell Gusto, who points to that world-class right winger or right wing back or right full back, mention that one to me, that can come in and play predominantly as a midfielder and succeed. I want someone to identify that to me. So I'll just run through all the things we've talked about on this video. I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section. First off, Mo Salah signed a new contract with Liverpool. Was that the smartest decision on his part? Was that even an advisable decision for FSG and Liverpool to do, given his age, and given that this was an opportunity for them to get something for him, although it's coming towards the end of his contract? What do you think about that whole thing? And then Van Dijk as well. Liverpool fans, you happy with the fact that Van Dijk has also signed a new contract? You happy with that bit? For me, I think the time to cash out on players is when they're performing beyond their age and they can still offer something on the pitch. Then you know that someone will be willing to pay you, something sizable, something significant. But Liverpool fans, what do you think about that? Fans in general, what do you think about Mo Salah? Are you shaking your boots, thinking that, "Oh, Mo Salah is here to stay for a few more years"? What you thought about that? And then the Unity Cup as well. What are you thinking about the Unity Cup? Is it something you want to see Nigeria really participate in? Victor Odo supposedly was meant to be part of that squad, but he's injured at the minute. Even though no one knows if it's a long-term injury, it's an ankle injury that could be something that could be benign or could be something that could keep him out for the rest of the season. But I just think this is April, so you still have a full month, for him to recover and be part of that team. So overall, what do you think about that competition itself? And then I talked about Tyreek George as well. So Tyreek George is eligible to play for Nigeria, but subject to nationality switches. He played very well for Chelsea. Yesterday in the UEFA Europa Conference League, he scored his first goal for Chelsea, and for me, I think it was a very good goal. Not because he drew past 5-6 players and chipped the goalkeeper out delightfully, but because he showed pure attacking instinct, which is your midfielder or someone takes a shot from outside the box, you show that anticipation, that predatory instinct, to get in there and tap in, the rebound. Sometimes we pay so much attention to, the dazzles, the dribbles, like what Kvaratskhelia did, to Aston Villa, in the Champions League, and then we forget about all this predatory instinct in the box, foxes in the box, tap-ins. Those goals count. It amount to as much as you dribbling the entire 11 players and scoring. So that was a good goal for him. And like I said, NFF, Nigerian Football Federation, is an opportunity for you to begin to look at players you want to integrate into the larger Nigerian football setup, the larger Nigerian football ecosystem. Not just for World Cup qualifiers, not just for the World Cup next year if Nigeria qualifies, but for even beyond. You need to start planning. Look at what teams like Morocco are doing, at the minute. And then Onana, once again, like I said, Onana drops an absolute clanger against Lyon as Manchester United struggle to hold Lyon to a 2-2 draw, away in France. So you can say that's a good result, but nowadays that's not really a good result because it's still a draw, because if it was a couple of years ago, you could have said they got 2 away goals, and all they have to do is to hold out for a goalless draw, and that maybe opens things up for them to hit Lyon on the break. But right now, 2-2 go on aggregate, so it's just pure 2 a 2-2 draw. So both teams will still have to play the same way that they play or play differently, trying to win the game. So what do you think about that game going forward? And then all this niggling back and forth between players, is this something you enjoy? Is this something part of the game that you like to see? For me, I don't really mind it. My only thing is, if you're going to, say a lot of bull jive, if you're going to, say a lot of things, go back and forth with players, be a character, be overly colorful, party, or do whatever you want to do. If you're going to do that, then you have to bring it on the pitch. You have to show it on the pitch. For Onana, for instance, if you keep replying to everything Matthew says, you have to bring it on the pitch. You don't parry a shot, not a not so powerful shot. You don't parry a not so powerful shot into the path of an attacker and concede a very cheap goal. You just don't do that. If you're going to run your mouth, then you have to bring it on the pitch. So that's my only thing. If you're going to talk, yap, because the more you yap, the more you talk, the more you do all these things off the pitch, the more pressure you heap on yourself. And the thing about Onana, because when Chelsea was linked to Onana, I wasn't keen on Onana because for me, as a goalkeeper, doing the primary things that a goalkeeper should do, I've not really been impressed with him. Actually saving shots, actually commanding your goal area, coming off your line to claim corners and pull outs and set pieces, crosses and set pieces, to take the pressure off your team. I've never really been comfortable with Onana in that regard. But modern day football, the more crazy the thing you do, the crazier the thing you do on the pitch, the better. You hold the ball. Goalkeeper now have to be good with his feet. Should be able to do 5,000 step overs on the pitch with the ball. Then that's a good goalkeeper. Even when you look at highlights now, is goalkeepers, playing the ball out from the back as opposed to, saving shots and doing the things that goalkeepers are primarily meant to be doing. For me, I've said this. A goalkeeper, I don't want my goalkeepers to be on the ball for so long because that means the team is under immense pressure. That's why the goalkeeper has to be on the ball. So I think that's not just another thing. I think it's a modern football thing as well, because right now people pay more emphasis on what should be pluses. You should be pluses. Like, okay, he's such a wonderful shot stopper. He does everything the goalkeeper does. In addition, he's so good on the ball. But now he's so good on the ball, but not so good in the other aspects. And then what people don't understand is once those other aspects begin to slip away, then the goalkeeper being good on the ball is pointless. Just like Robert Sanchez. They say he's good on the ball. I don't think he's that good on the ball anyways. But if you're not doing what you're meant to be doing in goal, then being good on the ball is pointless, in my opinion. It's as pointless as a broken pencil. So my overall thoughts on that. So I think with that we've come to the end of this stream. So thank you all for you who've watched, who've subscribed, who've liked this video and shared this video. So hopefully I'll see you on yet another video. So stay well and stay blessed. Bye-bye.